Hello and welcome back to Stormin' Norman Says. I am Stormin' Norman. That must mean I have some things to say. On today's video, we're going to talk about fountain pens. Hello to all of you once again. I thought, we've been talking about notebooks a lot and journaling and whatever else I've been talking about on here. I know a lot of y'all subscribe for the stationary things I was doing, and I wanted to carry that on because like I said, we've been talking about a lot of notebooks, but you can't have a notebook. A notebook don't do you no good if you ain't got nothing to write on it with. So we're going to talk about fountain pens today and what to do if you're like me and you're poor but you like fountain pens. So I'm going to do a showcase, you want to call it that, on the fountain pens I have, and how much they were and how I started out. I didn't dive in head first and buy some $200 pen. I just kind of dipped my toe in a little bit, and I'll show you the ones I got, talk about how much they were and how they write, and we're going to do that in the overhead. So y'all go check out this overhead, and I'll be back when we're done. Alright, I may regret doing this overhead shot because it was a pain to set up. But here is all fountain pens minus one. I got one cheap disposable one that I left at work, but I don't like it, so there's that. I don't know what order we'll go in. I only have three of these inked up at the moment, and that's these three right here. So I guess we'll talk about those in a minute. Talk about the ones I don't have inked up. Well, actually this is inked up because it's a disposable. This was the first one I purchased. It just says Zebra fountain pen, and I purchased this 3 or 4 years ago, and I actually really liked it. What is this nib? I don't know what the nib is. I don't know if it's a fine nib or what, but it wrote pretty well. Let me get some paper. Probably should have thought about that already. It writes pretty decent. So after this, because I bought this just to try it out, I don't know if I'm going to like fountain pens because I've tried them before many years ago, and I was like, I don't really like this. You got to keep the pen in a certain direction, and there's just a lot of complications involved in fountain pens. So I'm like, well, let me buy one, try it out, see if I like it. And this one was less than $10, probably like $6 at the time. And I got it and I tried it. And I'm like, okay, I really like that. Let me spend some money on one. And at the time I didn't know this, but apparently this is everyone's entry level pen mostly. This is a lot of people's entry level fountain pen is the Pilot Metropolitan. So I bought this as my first proper fountain pen that's not disposable, that you can refill it. And this has medium nib, has the medium nib on it. And this one writes like a dream. And after this one, I pretty much fell in love with fountain pens. And I just started buying some up. I can't remember what my next purchase was, so we'll just go over these ones that are not inked at the moment. I had some bigger fountain pens, and I had a notebook. I've showed it to y'all on the channel before, from Murdy Creative, and you use the pen to keep the notebook cover closed, and pens like this are too big to fit in the pen loop. So I was looking for something not that big, and I got, this is the Muji, I believe, and it's, you know, regular. It's not thick like a regular fountain pen. It's made of aluminum. It has some kind of nib that's too small for me to read. This one's not inked up at the moment, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But this was a pretty good pen, except for the cap. Doesn't post very well. I can see it posts, but it comes off pretty easily. But overall, was not disappointed in this pen. It was highly recommended as far as beginner pens go to try out the Diplomat from whoever makes this. So I got the Diplomat, and I can't stand this pen. I hate this pen with a passion. It's not inked up right now either, but I've inked it up 3 or 4 times, and the ink always ends up drying out because I don't use it because I hate it. It's the most inconsistent pen I've ever tried. Like, you'll be writing, and like sometimes you'll get some ink and sometimes you won't. You never know what you're going to get. So the Diplomat, don't care for it. It's not inked up. This is just some Amazon pen, Hongdian Forest series. There's some Amazon pen I found that I also bought for the same reason I bought this one, because it wasn't a chunky pen, it was the thin one. And this one's really nice too. Got a black nib, fine point. Actually, I think when I bought this, it didn't say what the nib was. It was just kind of like, well, I don't know what kind of nib it has, so we're just gonna take a shot on it. But it didn't say what it was. It didn't give you the option to choose what it was. So I kind of bought it blind there. And I love this pen. It's just not inked up because I can't have too many pens inked up. This has ink in it that I need to wash out. This is the Pilot Kakuno, and clear pen. I only have one that has a screw on. This is a fine point. This pen writes fantastic. It's cheap. Takes the same refills as the Metropolitan, and I haven't dove into converters too much. This one right here, this cheap Amazon one, this is the only pen I have that has a converter in it. And it came that way. The rest of them did not. If they came with a converter, I'd use one. But this one is pretty good, all clear. You can see when the ink is in there and stuff. And like I said, it's got a fine nib. Writes fantastic. Good pen, no clip though. It's got this little notch right there to keep it from rolling. Of course, the cap does a pretty good job of that itself. My other favorite pen, which is why it's inked up, the Lamy Safari. Another pen I saw was being highly recommended, and I love this pen. This pen's great. It's a little scratchy when you're writing with it. And it's got a fine nib on it, ink window, and it's got the triangle grip, so you know when you put your hands on it if you're holding it right or not. Another one of my favorite ones, which is why it's inked. We talked about that one. We talked about that one. Last but not least, the Kaweco Sport. This is the plastic one, and this one does have a screw-on lid. Fine nib on it, and the reason this one is inked is because it never dries up. So I bought this one because it's small, and I thought it would work well in like a pen loop like this, my traveler's notebook, but on my pocket size one I thought it would work good. Like if I just wanted to slip it under the elastic band, it would fit. It wouldn't be too long to do that, and it's just been a great pen. I love the way it writes, and still inked up. So I had, because I'm an idiot, I had all these pens inked up, and last week I ended up breaking, well, not this one. This one's been inked up for months, and like even if I don't use it, I got to the point where I wasn't using my fountain pens a lot, and they dried up. Like all these had dried up. This one was in my poetry journal, and I hadn't wrote any poetry in a couple months, and it dried up in there. This was in my journal right here, and I hadn't wrote in it in like a month, and it dried up. And all these just kind of sat on my desk and dried. This one dried up because I hate it. And they all dried up, except that one because it's disposable. And this one did not dry up, even though it sat right there next to them, not getting used. So I don't know what kind of magic they got going on with this thing here. I want to get a metal one, but I also, there's a whole bunch of pens I want to get. But if you are into fountain pens, you understand they're not cheap. But these were pretty cheap. I think the most expensive one in this pile is probably $45. I think this one is around 40-ish, and this one's probably around $40-ish. But all the rest of these, under $40. This one was under 10. I think this one was under 20. So, not expensive. If you're, you ain't got a lot of money, but you want to try out fountain pens and see if it's for you, get you one of these disposable ones. I have the Pilot. Is it the Preppy? Is that the disposable one? I can't remember. The Varsity. The Pilot Varsity is the disposable one. It looks similar to this that I have at work, and I don't really like it. It don't write as good as this one. This Zebra one writes pretty good for a disposable. So if you're, on the fence about, well, I want to give fountain pens a shot, but I don't know if I'm gonna like them, this Zebra ain't too bad, and there's other cheap options as well. I mean, I didn't know nothing when I bought this. I just thought I'd try it, and I like Zebra pens. So I'm like, well, I like their ballpoint pens, so I'll probably like their fountain pen too, and I do. I like it. But of course, once you get bit by the bug, once you get this and find out you're gonna like it, it turns into all this. So if you like fountain pens, but you're not sure, buy a disposable. And if you like fountain pens and you're like, oh, but they're so expensive, some of them are. There's some I want, like the Pilot Vanishing Point, I want so bad, but it's like $250. So that ain't gonna happen. But there are pens under $50, under $40 that are good pens that'll get you into fountain pens and refills. Are not expensive. Like if you just want to go the route of cartridges, like these are my pilots for my pilots. Fits in that one. Fits in that one. I think it fits in one of these other ones too. Maybe that one. They're not expensive, and like this was maybe a 4-pack, and there's five cartridges in each box, so 5, 10, 15, and then the fourth one would have been 20. So I got 20 cartridges, and I think it was like 10, 15 bucks for the Lamy here. And then I got these because Kaweco being such a short pen, they gotta have their own little short refills, little tiny things, and 6 of them in here, and they last, depending on how much you write, but they last me, a while now. The Pilot ones, I used to write with this pen all the time. Like I'd go through 1 or 2 refills a month, or something like that, because I love this pen so much and I write with it all the time. But don't think that price is going to keep you out, because all these were cheap, and the refills, and don't think you can't get into it. There's entry levels to every hobby. This is no exception, and I'll probably have more expensive pens at some point, but I'm starting off with these poor boy pens here that are all pretty good, except for the Diplomat, because like I said, I hate this pen, but I can't bring myself to throw it away. So there's some good pens out there. You don't have to break the bank. So there you have it. All my fountain pens that I got so far. I do have one more on the radar that I really want to get. I want to get a TWSBI Eco, because that thing looks fantastic, and I want that to be maybe the next pen I try out. Y'all let me know if y'all would like to see a review of that, because if you do, that'll give me the incentive to go ahead and buy the thing. I forgot to touch on in the overhead portion there, since I do have one pen that has a converter, I bought this ink. Pelikan 4001 Brilliant Black is the ink I use in that pen, because it's the only pen I have with a converter. I wish the other ones had a converter, and I'll probably get one for them, especially the Pilot and the Lamy. But since that's the only pen I have with a converter, I got like a cheap ink to put in it, and it works good. Works real good. But I'm not a crazy ink person. Watch pen videos, you'll see people with like all these cut, like for some reason Robert Oster Ink follows me on Instagram, like before I even got into fountain pens. Like he followed that company or Instagram account or whatever, follows me on Instagram. So like you go to Robert Oster Ink and you can see all kinds of crazy colors and all this, and that's just not my thing. Not saying I won't ever try it, but black ink is my jam. Like I don't even like pens that have blue ink. Like I won't even write with them. So I just got that cheap ink, but eventually when I get, especially if I get the TWSBI, I might get some nicer ink to put in it. Who knows? But I appreciate y'all hanging out with me today and checking out my pens. It's always fun to show off my pens and just be a nerd. And here y'all are coming to watch me be a nerd, so y'all must be nerds too. And it's all good. It's a whole nerd community we got going on here. Appreciate you watching. And I've been Stormin' Norman. I have said things, Y'all have a good day.